thanks so much, everybody. We will get started now. To those of you who don't know me, I'm Helen Young. I'm one of the members of the Avert Exec. So welcome to session B, Outsmarted, Artificial Intelligence for and Against Violent Extremism. So unfortunately, the first speaker listed in the program, Lydia Shannon, isn't able to join us. But we do have Saif.
Yep.
Who is here to talk to us about Gen AI and Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, propaganda strategies and platforms engagement patterns. So we'll have 20 to 25 minutes from Saif, and then we'll go into Q&A time.
Yeah, cool. So I'm actually a good storyteller, so I'll try not to bore you guys. So my name is Saif, and I'm currently a PhD student and a research assistant at Victoria University of Wellington. And I'll be talking about propaganda strategies and platform engagement patterns of Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. So just a little bit about myself. I'm a research assistant at Victoria University. As a part of my PhD, I'm analyzing post-October 7th, 2023 visual discourse and engagement strategies of Al-Qaeda in Indian subcontinent in Islamic State of Khorasan. And as a project, I'm also mapping the online recruitment patterns of Islamic State of Khorasan province in the West. And one of my interests also includes identifying the jihadist identity creation and radicalization on visual and online gaming platform that includes TikTok, Roblox, and Squad as well. So, yeah. So talking about Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, last week there was this very interesting discussion on UN Security Council, in which one of the delegates actually mentioned TTP as the biggest threat in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So talking about TTP actually emerged in 2007 in the tribal districts of Pakistan with hardline Deobandi ideology. It is now amongst the most active and lethal jihadist factions in the world. And the organization claimed 1377 attacks from January to June 2025 all over in Pakistan. But previously, it has claimed attacks in Afghanistan, that was in 2009, and in the United States, that was in 2010. The organization is running the largest and most adaptable online jihadist propaganda campaign with more than 18 propaganda products. I mean, that's wild. So, and this organization is not, right now, it's not just, focused only on AfPak region. It is actually expanding to other countries as well. Previously, it was just focused in Pakistan, but now it's expanding to, it has footprints nowadays in Indian Kashmir, in Bangladesh. And so talking about this, just to give you guys a little bit background of this research, that said that the methodology that I've used for this research is the digital ethnography and open source intelligence methods. And the resources I've used for this particular presentation is TTP official and associated groups in channels, in handles, on Telegram, X, in WhatsApp, and Signal. So just to give you guys a brief overview of the kind of propaganda products that are there that has been disseminated by the TTP, that includes press release, newspapers, audio hymns, audio podcasts, video podcasts, infographics. So basically, it has something for everybody, right? So it has something for old people, it has something for the new people, it has something for the Gen Z. So, it has been experimenting with different products. So it has something to offer to everyone, right? So that's why it has more than, and it's continuously evolving. So probably maybe this week they'll come up with something new, some another product, right? So that's why it has right now till this presentation, it has more than 18 products, propaganda products. So for this particular presentation, we'll be talking about how these TTP is using generative AI to generate their propaganda discourse, and how it is also using generative AI to enhance the existing propaganda discourse. So talking about how this organization is using generative AI, I'll be talking about how it is using to generate images. I'll be talking about how it is using for videos, and most importantly, how it is using to generate the arguments. So talking about the images, which is, I think, one of the most frequent ways of interaction through propaganda. So if you have a look from left to right, So you'll see that initially what it did is like they discovered the generation through prompts. So they come up with like just simply putting up and coming up with different prompts. So some very basic stuff, some very basic images that you can see from the two on the left. But this organization is also like evolving, right? So I mean, if you see on the right, so this is the image on the right, first image, the family in Pakistan. So basically that's like an actual image. So now this organization, what it is doing is like it is using AI to use the existing images to come up with the personalized image, right? So what they do is like they put the existing image, come up with some nice prompt, and then they come up with like a personalized image for their own propaganda. So right now, what we can see from their propaganda is that they're using mostly the free software, the free services, particularly from Meta and particularly from ChatGPT. So they're using it to generate the posters, images, logos, even, and then personalized images. Right. So when it comes to videos, they're getting more. They're experimenting with different things. They're getting more better and better every day. So TTV is not somebody that hasn't used computer, it hasn't used like softwares for animations or videos before. So it was in 2021 when they first used the computers for their own propaganda. So like for the first image on the left, you can see that was from the animation that they have generated in 2021. And then when they come to know that they can actually generate videos from the propaganda, so they come up with like short videos. So from left to right, there's this gradual, you can see that refinement of propaganda. So initially, their propaganda was not as refined, but if you see from left to right, it's getting better, right? So this was one of the first videos that they have generated from the artificial intelligence. This person is Pakistani chief of army staff, and then they used their actual image to come up with a video of that. But that was like not more than 1 minute. And then the one right next to it, it's a news bulletin that you have used, generate that through artificial intelligence. And not only the video was generated through artificial intelligence, but also the voiceover was also generated by the artificial intelligence. And the one on the right and is the most recent one, in which they've used Sora, the OpenAI, for short visuals, and which is definitely better than the rest of the band. So I mean, this one, the one on the right, that's been taken in October 2025. So I mean, we can see that this organization is actually experimenting. It's getting better and better every passing day. So and then they're using like free softwares only right now, and their content, the visual content that they're generating from different software is mainly just limited to 1 minute or less, just because they're using the free softwares. So based on the screenshots, based on the videos that they've put with the logos, we can see that right now they're just using the software like DubDub. They're using softwares like LumeAI, VideoGPT, Sora, and Patagonia. Okay. Now this is one of the most interesting things that that gives them an edge on the other organizations, that they've also starting generating discourse, the textual discourse through generative AI. So of course, I mean, one of the things that kept them limited only to Pakistan or just a segment in Pakistan is because their propaganda, especially when it comes to like the textual discourse, it was not as good as the rest of the organization, especially when it comes to Islamic State. So right now what they're doing is like they're using generative AI to make it more appealing to the rest of the population, especially the international audience. So initially, what their first interaction with the generative AI was through Grok. So initially, what they did is like they experimented that with like question and answers. Like they put one question and then they generated an answer from that. And then, and the second one, if you can say, I mean, this one is like they use ChatGPT to come up with like very detailed answer with like good arguments. And then and the third one is like, I think this one is more interesting because from the ChatGPT arguments, they thought that probably their argument is not as good as, and it is not, it lacks the actual argument. It lacks the actual references. So what it did is, like, right now they're using the Notebook LLM, the Google Notebook LM. And those who know how to use a Notebook LM is basically you have to put up an actual document in there, and then the generative AI comes up with a really good answer or whatever you're asking based on that particular thing. So whatever references that have been generated are the actual and real ones. So, I mean, if you see from the left to right, this organization is also experimenting and getting better every passing day. So ChatGPT, Grok, and now it's Notebook LM. It is generating detailed arguments from specific texts and articles. So now we'll be talking about how it is enhancing the existing discourse. So one of the things that TTPU has been, has already been using was that, it used to come up with like different press releases, attacks claims previously, but now because of ChatGPT and because of AI, generative AI, it is translating and publishing propaganda in more than 5 languages, which are regional and international, just to expand their own, ambit. And then they're translating press releases, they're translating posts on Grok and X and comments. And then they're also using generative AI to generate voiceovers, change voice pitch in bass. And they're also generating deepfake audios. Like, so on the top, if you can see, they're like, this is like sample of translation. So these are like actual press releases that have been released simultaneously of one particular incident. And one was in Urdu, and then other was translated in the other language, which is Pashto, and simultaneously through ChatGPT. And the one down is the audio deepfake that has been used, in which the voice of senior government official was dubbed. It was used to, for their own propaganda. Now, how TTP is using AI to generate voiceovers, titles, and subtitles. So in the left, you can see the TTP is creating the video titles and subtitles in different languages. So on the top, if you can say, the top title was in Urdu, and then, in the bottom, it was in English. And in the picture right next to it, it is like the narration was in Pashto, which is like another language, but then the subtitle was in Urdu, and that was like generated through AI. And the recent, and on the right, on the picture on the right, this was quite a recent video in which this video was released in 4 different languages and with 4 different narrations. So the language was so the video was released in English, Urdu, Pashto, and Arabic. And the voiceover was also in Pashto. Oh, sorry, voiceover was also in different languages. So this organization is also using AI bots apart from for visuals, to gathering visuals, and to spreading propaganda, and to interacting with the people. So I've just taken clips. These are the actual clips from one of their groups, and I've posted that. So, like, for example, on the very left, if you can see that how this organization is using videos, is gathering videos. So they've actually generated their own bots, and they're also using the existing bots. They're just posting the clips there, and then they're getting the whole videos themselves. And then they're also using bots, and they're propagating bots on different platforms. And these bots, whenever you interact with them, they come up with like a very customized, message. The moment you subscribe them, it comes up with like very customized message. And then the more you interact with them, it comes up with like different messages. And then there will come a point where, somebody actual who's sitting from the TTP propaganda team will intervene, and then, they'll talk to you in person. Cool. All right. So now I'll be talking about how it is using AI to engage on different platforms. Platform engagement patterns of TTP. So this is basically like a map of its online engagement. So on the top is the Umer Media, which is the official propaganda platform of Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. So what it does is like it simultaneously releases messages, propaganda messages in 3 different mainstream platforms, which is Telegram, Signal, and WhatsApp. And from these different these 3 platforms, there are specific teams who pick up different, whatever they find relevant. And these teams, they pick up the stuff from these platforms and then they disseminate on X. And they've figured out that, on X, that's very interesting. I mean, they figured out that like if they spread their message in these 4 categories, they get away with the regulations. Like, so if they propagate things under news, as disguised as a news platform, if they disseminate their stuff disguised as a human rights group, if they disseminate themselves as a war reporting platform, or if they disseminate their content as a human rights activist, so they definitely get away with that. And then recently, what they did is like they're talking about that most of their accounts on as human rights activists and human rights groups are getting blocked. So they're focusing more on the news platforms and war reporting platforms. So whatever interaction they have, whatever things they interact in all this propaganda dissemination thing. So and the public sentiments, hot topics, and platform patterns are identified by this whole process, and it is all shared again, as you can see on the right. This one is all shared again with the media team that later posts the instructions through the Telegram groups. Okay, so we'll talk about the engagement on the Telegram. So despite that the Telegram has recently closed TTP accounts and Islamic State accounts on widely closed accounts on Telegram. So Telegram is still a widely used application for the propaganda dissemination, especially by the TTP. And the preference is because they believe that if their account is blocked, it's reinstated automatically after 6 months. And so the TTP propagate its bots and channels disguised as news platforms, news channels in the groups. So because they believe that if they disguise their group channels as news channels, so they get away with the Telegram regulations. And then they've recently started using words with the organization like banned, just to get away with that, with the regulation. And then they're disguising words like jihad as J-HAD, or they're just changing the spelling. Same, the Islamic State is also using the same technique on different platforms. So, and one of the things that TTP has figured out that, that having channel is much better than having groups. So from groups, they are moving towards more channels, right? With more engagement and comments. So like they figured out that like if you have a channel and you're posting something there, and that thing has like comments, or like for example, if just put a picture there, or that picture has comments and engagement, so there's less chance that your channel will get blocked. Now, there's another very interesting thing that I've observed in one of their very active channel is what they did is like they created a backup channels for different things. So like for videos, they have backup channels. For their own content, they have different channels. And in those channels, they don't let anybody in, right? So they don't let anybody subscribe that. But these are like the backup channels. So they forward material from those backup channels, from those backup groups, to different groups. So like in case somebody reports their account, so their account, so the channel doesn't get blocked, but the ID that it's forwarding, that gets blocked, right? So, I mean, I thought that's like very smart of them. So this is just like these are 2 screenshots. Like the first one is talking about how TTP militants are suggesting each other to use backup channels on Telegram. And the second one is like in which TTP militants are suggesting ways to unblock Telegram ID. So they believe that it's Telegram is still preferable as compared to a different other platform, because you can easily unblock your ID and it automatically gets unblocked after some time. So when it comes to X or the former Twitter, they're posing themselves as news, they're posing themselves as human rights accounts, they're posing themselves as war reporting, insurgency, monitoring groups to avoid reporting and deletion. They're using generative AI to generate taglines. They're using that generative AI, especially Meta, to generate logos, captions, and pictures. And they've disseminated official engagement rules that whatever each member from their media team has to follow. That they have to come up with like 2 accounts, and those members should go for the verification of those accounts. And then they have to post minimum 3 and maximum 5 posts every day. And the post time should be between 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And which is very interesting. I don't know why. There must be something about that. And then each tweet must have hashtag TTP, and then they should also be participating in X or Twitter top trends. So I mean, whatever top trend is, so go there, click to the top trend, and post whatever content you have, and also mention hashtag TTP. And then you have to reshare the profiles and accounts of TTP official accounts, propaganda accounts on X. And one of the things that they have recently shared is like, if you have a new profile on X, so you don't have to talk about jihadist content for at least 2 months. And then once you are done with 2 months period, so then you can talk about local issues and current affairs. So do not post active jihadist contents for 2 months. And then after that, you can post that, but you have to talk about the local issues and current affairs as well to just keep your account from blocking. And then you have to report anti-jihad accounts, post links in the groups for reporting. And then one of the ways they want to reach out to other famous journalists is that they're also tagging these journalists and other influencers through in their propaganda content. Sorry. So this is just one of the screenshots of the TTP operated news platform on X. So if you can see the tagline that has been generated through generative AI, and then these logos are also generated by generative AI. Cool. So talking about the engagement on WhatsApp and Signal. So this organization has recently discovered WhatsApp and Signal, and it is still experimenting with that. So WhatsApp and Signal are still the emerging platforms for this propaganda dissemination, and it is still experimenting for engagement, posting, and right now this organization is avoiding WhatsApp groups, and it has circulated instructions that is encouraging WhatsApp channels for privacy and propagate channels. It is also propagating channels on Telegram groups and bots. So this organization is also sharing pictures and videos on WhatsApp, and it has recently switched to Signal. But on Signal, it is not sharing the videos, but it's just sharing the links to the videos. I mean, you can just go and post a link to the browser, and then you can download or watch the videos on the Signal. And then one of the recent things that I've observed on the Signal is that this organization is importing members list from other groups. So one of the member of this organization becomes a member of any global organization, the group of any global organization on Signal. So what it does is like it just import the list of members from that group and then just keep adding them, just to broaden their embed and then reach to different people as well. And in this, I just shared a screenshot of an active TTP militant on Telegram asking others to avoid WhatsApp groups. All right. So talking about the upcoming challenges when it comes to generative AI. So TTP and the likes have actively started using generative AI for visuals as well as arguments and writing, which is very dangerous because previously one of the things that get them easier when it comes to like counter narrative is like their arguments were quite weak when it comes to things like Islam and all that, but now they're using generative AI. And recently, one of the studies that I've done, the study is still in process, which is and some of the things that I've noticed is that recently they've started generative AI to create Quranic verses, the verses from Quran and the sayings of the Prophet, which is like quite dangerous because they look similar, but if you go and have a look at that in the actual context, you come to know that this thing doesn't really exist. So just to have an appeal to the rest of the people, or to have an appeal to conservative people, they're using generative AI to create Quranic references in the sayings of the Prophet. And they're also enhancing videos, images. They are recreating their visuals for better engagement. So like, for example, if they have something from the past, which is quite blurry, and so what they can do is like, they can just put that in the generative AI and they come up with like a very detailed and good image or good visual from that. And right now they're just focused more on the short videos, short visuals, fact videos, and they're improving that day by day, especially with using Sora. And one of the things there I've recently noticed that they're also using AI to learn about different platform protocols and manipulation. So they've been experimenting, they've been putting different prompts in that. And they're also learning about the prompt engineering on generative AIs, and on different platforms, they're also suggesting different platforms for various users. Like, for example, if they want to know which platform is good to come up with like a platform protocol and manipulations, so they go for Grok instead of Gemini. They're connecting with worldwide jihadist groups through Signal, which is dangerous because initially they called themselves that they'll only be focused on Pakistan and Afghanistan, but now they're reaching out to different countries, and so they want to expand their horizon. They want to experiment with other things as well. So if those who are into this, their visual, the visual engagement of extremist organization, they know that after Islamic State, the Al-Qaeda is also learning from the engagement patterns of Islamic State regarding the visual outreach, and especially the engagement on the gaming platforms. So if Al-Qaeda is learning from Islamic State, so I think the TTP as an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, it's just going to follow that trend very soon. So these are the challenges that I thought that should be discussed with the House, and especially I think the use of generative AI to create Quranic verses and the sayings of Prophet, that's quite dangerous, I think so. So that's pretty much it from my side, and I'll just open the House for questions. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Thanks so much for some really interesting insights there. Do we have questions in the room? Okay, we've got a couple of, I think, 2 roving mics. There's another one here. Yep. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask about Signal. Would you say that Signal is used almost predominantly for jihadist groups, or they just happen to be found on Signal as well?
Okay. So recently, what I've noticed, since I'm also working on the recruitment patterns of Islamic State of Khorasan and Al-Qaeda, so Signal is like a recent phenomenon. So that hasn't been, so like, I mean, you can say that has been used like 6 months or 7 months, but yes, it has been used recently, and it is quite actively being used, especially when it comes to Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is using it, and Tariq-e-Taliban has recently adopted it. But when it comes to Islamic State, it's a whole different game. Yeah. So, but definitely, yes, Signal is getting very much adopted by these organizations. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful presentation.
Thank you
so much. I was just curious because I know a lot of generative AI platforms have changed their community guidelines in order to kind of have better governance. And I was wondering if you had seen any correlation on those community guidelines being updated and the type of content that you were seeing being generated, if at all.
To be honest, I really have no idea about the platform regulations when it comes to because they keep changing like every passing month and all that. But these organizations, because as I'm just following their work on that. So what they're doing is like they're using the generative AI again to come up and manipulate the whatever is the platform restriction. So what they do is like in their own groups, they discuss these things like, I came up with this thing and I typed this prompt there, and I got this response. And this, I believe that this platform is much better than the rest of the platforms. Like, for example, they really believe that Grok is much better than the Gemini or the rest of the platforms. So right now they're just using Grok for different the manipulation of the different platforms. Yeah, cool.
G'day. I really liked the presentation.
Thank you.
I guess it's that evolution of ISIS's sort of use of social media a lot early on, and it's quite efficient how the TDP is able to use Gen AI as a sort of propaganda tool. I just had a sort of a two-part question around the creation of the Quranics that they were doing. First part was that likely to be sort of a mistake and oversight? They haven't actually read through it and linked it back to where it should be. And secondly, is that more likely to inhibit their actual aim of like sending that propaganda out or recruiting people to the cause because they've basically manipulated the words of the prophet?
So this has been recently, I've recently observed that, and we are just, this research is ongoing. But recently, I've actually observed that in their multiple monthly publications. So they release like different propaganda magazines. One of them is called Mujalla Taliban. So in one of them, like in a couple of them, they were on different places. They mentioned Quranic verses. And when I actually went to those things, and that was very different, right? And they have actually altered the text. So I mean, if you know that in Quran is like we have this Arabic text, which is like universal all over the world. But and that verse is followed by like a number of like a surah, and so if you go and have a look at that, so like for example, the text might look similar, but it's not the exact one. So that's how they're changing it. So, and I personally believe that they're changing that to reach out to different people and who believe that probably their narrative or their ideology is not right, but they're making it right. And they're saying that, you know what, guess I got the Quranic, reference with that. So like if they want somebody to go and kill somebody, so guess what? Now they have this reference for that, and that they have, and like who's going to counter verify that? I'm doing that because that's part of my research, right? Not everybody is doing that. So probably they're just getting away with that right now. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Sorry. I just to follow on from very similar question about adapting the Quran as innovation would be suicide for a group, to be honest.
Yeah. So
I was wondering the extent to which a lot of what you're describing is a capacity problem for the group. I mean, having to use AI when, you look at jihadi groups over the years, the pre-AI production was amazing. I mean, just because I'm old, IS copied Al-Qaeda on social media. It wasn't that IS created it, they copied Al-Qaeda. But then they produced a lot of stuff that was amazing, visually amazing, better than what we see in AI now, that they were producing very skillfully. So my question about using AI now, is this just because they don't have people who can do it at the moment and they're just having to find another way? Or is there some strategic point to this that is like, oh, we're going to use AI for something? Or is it just we just don't have any good people at the moment?
So
go back to the real quality stuff from previous eras when they had people available.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so the previous jihadist organization, like let's say for Islamic State, they come up with like really good stuff because they recruited people from the West who were into the media, into the propaganda. They actually recruited people, let's say, from Britain, from Germany, and they come up with like really amazing propaganda stuff. But when it comes to like Tariq-e-Taliban, this particular organization is definitely suffering from recruiting people who are really good in that. So what they're right now doing is like they're relying more on the AI. And when it comes to AI, they're still limited, right? Because they don't have the resources probably, or they just don't want to trace. So they're not using the paid versions. So they're just going for the limited free versions right now. So that's why their capacity is like limited. But even with the free versions, we believe that the capacity is increasing, especially when it comes to like propaganda videos and all that. So I believe their capacity will increase with time, even with using free softwares like that. Yeah.
Sorry, just the 2016 era, they were not Western.
Mhm.
It's an entirely Western-centric idea. People who were good in that early era had to be imported from the West.
Mhm.
Arab states have quality tech people and designers. They used that. It wasn't just IS had to wake up one day and think we can't produce good propaganda without Westerns.
Yeah, true.
We have to forget this idea that production quality relies on Western.
Mhm.
You can't say.
Yeah, true. I agree with that. But then again, they used people who were trained in the West. They used the Western rappers. I'm talking about Islamic State. They used the people who are good in Western propaganda and all that, and they come up with something really nice. Of course, they must have developed their own capacity as well. There were a couple of good people back in the Arab states as well. But when it comes to this particular organization, it is lacking experts. It is lacking, expertise. That's why it is reaching out to the people. It is reaching out to an international audience through AI. And even for the artificial intelligence or generative AI, the scope is limited because they're using the free versions, right? Even when it comes to generating the visuals, the videos, the images, their quality is not as good as the paid versions, right? Because they're using the free versions. And for whatever reason, probably they just don't want to have they don't want to leave the track online. They don't have the funds maybe to purchase something online. So that's why, their capacity is limited when it comes to using free versions of artificial intelligence.
I'm going to take chair's privilege and jump in with a kind of follow-on question.
Okay. Yeah,
so
cool.
is what I'm sort of getting from what you're saying there is that AI is giving them a capacity to produce things that they did previously.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Would you think that would be one of the kind of top level benefits of AI for a group like this, that whether it's based in Islamic Jihad or any ideology?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons they are trying to reach out to different people, because now they have this tool as AI, and that's why they're using to translate their stuff. That's why they're using to generate their comments. That's why they're using that to generate their whole discourse. And they're advancing their discourse. They're generating different arguments. They're coming up with different articles and magazine articles and essays to reach out to different audiences, especially people in other developed countries. And definitely generative AI and the free versions of AI are definitely helping them. Yeah, giving them as the platforms.
So we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. I saw a hand up there.
Cool.
Hi, I'm Rebecca from Violence Prevention Network. Thank you for the presentation. I was particularly interested in what you were saying about learning about prompt engineering.
Oh, yeah.
And really interested in that because that is usually about, efficiently getting the AI to make the content you want it to. But one thing I'm not sure we touched on is another strategy that they might need here, which is jailbreaking the AI to make it produce the content if it veers a little bit more towards violence or terms associated. And I was wondering, you mentioned there that they were learning about prompt engineering on the tool itself, but how are they collecting strategies on jailbreaking, or did you observe that at all?
I don't really observe something when it comes to jailbreaking. Probably it's just about experimenting with different things. So what it do is they have these groups, they're different groups, and then what it do is they experiment something and then they post on that. Like for example, in the previous slides, I've shared that how they're experimented with different softwares, and then they came up with this software called LLM. Which one? Yeah. So they come up with generative notebook LLM, and they were like, okay, you know what? This one is more efficient when it comes to generative arguments. So one should be focusing more on this, because whatever references that has been generated through notebook LLM is much better as compared to the one that has been generated through ChatGPT. So yeah, of course, they're experimenting, they're experimenting, and then they're just posting their things that whatever comes up, and then the results, and then they post that, and just to maybe give like information to the rest of the militants, maybe. Yep.
One more quick question here.
Cool.
Kia ora. My name is Laura. I'm from Tech Against Terrorism. This has been very interesting. Thank you. It's we're seeing all of this absolutely at the moment, but it's certainly a group I don't know too much about personally. I wanted to just ask you, I was very interested in the way you laid out the sort of way that they posted and the strategy behind that. And I'm curious to know if you have any insights on how their websites fit into that. Do you have any insights on, we know that they operate a range of websites, of news.
Especially when it comes to websites? Oh, yes.
Yeah. How does that fit into this, or is it an entirely sort of separate process?
So what it is, like, they come up with different. So I'm talking about just this particular platform, particular organization. Of course, Al Qaeda and Islamic State, they have been like experimenting with the website as well. But when it comes to like this particular jihadist group, so initially they come up with like different websites, one for their official magazine and one for their overall organization. But they come to know that whatever they put that has been blocked, or that has been taken down by different governments, or by different groups, I mean, they just go and report that, and that has been taken off. So recently they're not just focusing on the website, and they believe that Twitter and Telegram is more efficient way to disseminate their propaganda. And so right now this is focused more on the X or the Twitter. So they believe that's more that's quite more efficient way to reach out to a larger population as compared to websites and all that. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Dave.
All right, no problem. Thank you.